is a presentation of Sertoba Media and Comey Media Incorporated.
Hard to handle, baby. Baby, I'm so hard to handle, baby. Baby, I'm so. Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry. That's what Saquon Barkley was singing to the Jaguars when he did that reverse. We'll explain that next. This is Total Football Talk. Well, welcome to another installment of Total Football Talk. This is episode 62 of Total Football Talk. Hard-hitting, gridiron news and fun, just the way you like it. Well, I'm one of the co-hosts of this program, Cole Johnson, a.k.a. the mad scientist, the EP of all EPs. I'm sorry, EP extraordinaire, and let me do it the way my co-host likes for me to do it. The EP of all EPs. But I'm not alone. I am joined by the other co-hosts of this program. It is Mr. Commander's Gridiron Report. I know he's very happy right now. Mr. Inter-Out Sports Debate, Mr. D. Will in the evening. Well, of course, it is D. Willie that I'm talking about, a.k.a. Drew Willingham. How you doing, my man?
Doing great. Glad to be back here with the EP of all EPs. Can't quite do it like you do, but we're like Vicola, but had to do something for you this morning, my man. Glad to be back here with you, talking another day of football. This is a great way to get the week started.
Yeah, it is, and surprisingly, this actually was a pretty good weekend. Good week actually. So let's get this party started with the opening drive.
All right, let's go. We got trips right at 42, 989 on two. Ready? Ready.
All right. Now, for this week that we are reviewing, the Steelers and the 49ers were on bye. So you will not see a Steelers game or a 49ers game for the week 9 that we're reviewing. But we will touch on the Steelers game that happened on week 8, Monday night. They handled business. They beat the Giants 26-18. It was pretty much a ho-hum affair. It was 9-9 until the middle of the third, when seemingly Russell Wilson decided to wake up and throw touchdowns. So that basically was the case. We don't have to go any further with that. The Giants are more abundant. The Steelers are grinding their way through, leading the AFC North as we speak. All right, now.
Coming out the gate with fire.
So there was a Thursday night game. It involved my Houston Texans. They played the New York Jets in the Meadowlands. It actually was the New York Jets having a scrimmage with another team because the Texans got overrun. 21-13 was the final score. It really wasn't that close. It should have been even more if it weren't for a Deshaun Jackson redo on one of the plays that resulted in a touchback for the Texans. Goodness gracious. In fact, I feel so much better if I actually have this on loop, because basically my team were playing like Duster Pelicans. There we go. Perfect. All right, Aaron Rodgers, 22 of 32, 211 yards, 3 touchdowns. He also had a carry for a -1 yard. Actually, this is probably the best game he's played ever since the last one they had, which was, of course, a Meadowlands win in New England against New England. Sorry. Let me see. Breece Hall, 15 carries for 74 yards, 2 receptions for 11 yards. Devontae Adams, 7 receptions, 91 yards and a touchdown. Garrett Wilson, 9 receptions, 90 yards, 2 touchdowns. The second, I almost still want to debate, but hey, if a shin can land before a knee, so be it. But he did make some good catches in that game. Well, on defense, Jamie and Sherwood, he basically was the standout for the Jets. 7 solo tackles, 2 tackles for losses, a quarterback hit, and 2 sacks. Michael Clemens, he had 2 tackles for losses, another quarterback hit. He had 2 sacks. Quinnen Williams, who I believe is the best player on the team, I don't mean defense, I mean on the whole Jets team, 2 tackles for losses, 4 quarterback hits in the second half, which led the Jets defense to have 10 tackles for losses, 11 quarterback hits, and 8 sacks. 8 sacks. I'm sorry. I'm trying to be objective here. I'm happy for the Jets. That was a great performance, but 8 doggone Woosah. Okay, now I feel better. All right, now for the Texans, CJ Stroud. Worst game as a professional thus far. 11 of 30, 191 yards, 8 carries for 59 yards, and I'm surprised he did not throw a pick in this game. Joe Mixon was basically the one of the 2 bright spots on the team. 24 carries, 106 yards. He was 0 for 1 throwing, if that makes anything. The Texans offense, they gained 187 rushing yards, so they had some offense. Some. Tank Dell had a decent game, 6 receptions, 126 yards. On defense, the Nickel Autry, who I think he was suspended 6 games, if I'm not mistaken, for I'm sorry, my bad. 2 tackles for losses, 2 quarterback hits, and 2 sacks. So welcome to the team, Mr. Autry. Glad that you were able to contribute. And Kami Fairbairn, he did hit along for 54 yards, but the fool decided to doink it off the uprights from 2 point-blank range field goal attempts. I'm sorry. Before I continue talking about this game, your thoughts on this debacle of an effort from the Texans?
Yeah, this game was absolutely not something that it didn't really unravel until the second half, because the Jets went into halftime being down 7-0 to the Texans, and I believe 6 of those 8 sacks on CJ Stroud occurred in the second half, because they finally turned it on in the second half. They were not clicking on all cylinders until then. Aaron Rodgers threw 3 touchdowns in the second half, which.
Right.
Which is his all-time best game, more likely, like he said the other day, his best half of the season. The Jets need this type of play from their offense. They needed to get Breece Hall going, which is what they did in this game as well. Again, took him to the second half to really get him going. 74 yards on 15 carries, I would say, is getting him going for this type of Jets team of 2024, averaging about 5 yards per carry. It's just sad to see the Texans not get it done when you see the fact that Joe Mixon had 106 yards on 24 carries, averaging almost the same amount of yards per carry as Breece Hall did for the Jets. But CJ Stroud having nearly 20 incompletions was the big stat line of the game, is because the pressure that was put on him by the Jets defense in the front line. The Houston Texans offensive line was struggling with them all of that second half. The first half, they did pretty good. It was really the tale of two halves. And luckily in the game of football for the Jets, the second half is the end of it when it ends. So right here and now, I'd say, definitely big win for the Jets, still keeps them alive, but it's a humbling loss for the Texans as they still have things that they need to retool in order to be at the team that they need to be at.
I love that adjective, humbling, because not to say that I thought they were on a high horse, but you could sometimes believe too much in your own hype. And so they roll into Meadowlands thinking, okay, we're playing a 2-6 team. We're 6-2. We came off of a division win. We grinded out that. We grinded out the Bills win. We grinded out the Jaguars win. And we grinded with the Packers, but we lost it at the gun. So they had this feeling of, well, we play hard enough, we'll be in these games. And I think they need to have one of those games where it's like, if you think you're better than this team, you have another thing coming. And I think that's what we saw. And better now than in mid-January. But the Texans, they may have another humiliating whooping coming too, though. They fall to 6-3. The Jets, they improved to 3-6, and this might save their season. Who knows? But if they think they're going to actually have a chance of being an AFC East champion contender, let me see if I could find. Oh, yes, right. Bishop singing.
Hell to the no, to the no, 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 no. Hell no, no, to the no, no. Hell to the no, to the no, 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 no. Hell no, no, to the no, no.
I love that. Thank you for a double dose, Bishop. I appreciate that. Thank the Lord. I'm going to speak about the Texans the rest of this show. Well, doggone it, yes, I do. Let's speak about it at the end of it. All right, now to games I actually want to talk about, the Sunday affairs. And before we do, how you doing, Dante? It's good to see you. I know you're happy. Your Eagles did well. Sick. Appreciate you. Good morning. Good afternoon to you, sir. Since it was good, buckle up, get wild, and thank you. You said, yeah, it was a bad night for my Texans Thursday. Yes, it was. Yeah, they do have to dust off and try it again next week. Their opponent next week, though, I don't think they're going to be dusting off much. They may receive another thumping. But a team that definitely received a thumping, and they deserve it because they are a hot mess of a team, that's Dallas Cowboys. They went to the ATL, piece up, 8-town down, and the Cowboys went down with them. 27-21 was the final score. The Falcons beat the Cowboys. Kirk Cousins, I will take this stat line from him. 19-24, 222 yards, 3 touchdowns, 4 carries for negative 11 yards. Of course, when I see that stat, I'm thinking there's a lot of victory formations. Unfortunately, the one big stat that I would want to erase is the that he did have. Or when I do that, that means lost fumble. Bijan Robinson, 19 carries, 86 yards. He also had 7 receptions, 59 yards. Darnell Mooney paced the receptions department, 5 receptions, 88 yards, and a touchdown. And then we have the hard luck of Rain Dakota Prescott. 18 of 24, 133 yards, a touchdown, 3 carries for 30 yards, and a pulled hamstring. Cooper Rush, who now Cowboys fan is saying he probably is a better quarterback than Dakota. 13 of 25, 115 yards. He had a touchdown of himself, a hit of his own. He also had a carry for 4 yards in the game. We had a Rico Dowdle sighting. He was all sick last Sunday. He played 12 carries, 75 yards, 5 receptions, 32 yards, and a receiving touchdown. On defense, Carl Lawson led the way for 2 tackles of losses, 2 quarterback hits, and 2 sacks. And Brandon Aubrey, even though he was only 2 of 2 from field goal range, his long was from 57. Your thoughts on the Falcons looking pretty strong and the Cowboys looking rather dull? And my partner,
Cowboys did look rather dull in this game. Very, very dull. in this game. As a matter of other things I could say are pretty dull in that moment in this time. When it comes to this game, they definitely needed Dak to get out of the game and get Cooper in there, because it definitely gets them closer between the two NFC East matchups yesterday in the battle of division teams. This was the games. The scores were kind of close. You had 27-22 in the Commanders and Giants. Then you had this game right here, where the Cowboys in the same division lose by 6 points in a very similar score fashion. So, looking at it for what it was, definitely another expletive buster when it comes to this Cowboys team. They are definitely not anywhere close to being a playoff team this season.
No, not even close. I would totally agree with you there. Dante says, look, it's always great to see the Cowboys lose. The whole Cowboys segment needs to be shut your mouth and laughing. Well, let me see. Well, it'll definitely be this. It'll definitely be for this. Well, I'll give the Falcons their flowers. They improved to 6-3. The Cowboys, they now fall to 3-5. And for those Cowboys fans who still say the following,
This has been yet another Beating a Dead Horse presentation.
I give you one, Charlie Murphy. We shall continue. Oh, Charlie, give me another one, because we're about to do Browns. But I mean, the Browns, they beat the Ravens last week, and they're at home. They're playing the Chargers. Okay, all right, fine. So the Chargers came to Cleveland, and Cleveland gave the Browns that nasty stink tackle. 27-10. Justin Herbert, he had a pretty good game, actually. This is probably the best one of the season. 18-27, 282 yards and a couple of touchdowns. He also had 3 carries for -2. J.K. Dobbins, 14 carries for 85 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also had 2 receptions, 20 yards. Quentin Johnson, 4 receptions for 118 yards and a touchdown. On defense, Tupilotu, he had a couple of they had a tackle loss. He had 3 quarterback hits. He had 5 solo tackles. He had 2.5 sacks. Morgan Fox, he also had 2 tackles for losses. Pass defense, 2 quarterback hits and 2 sacks. The Chargers defense did pretty well on the day. 2 tackles for losses, pass defense. 8 tackles for losses, 12 passes defended, 9 quarterback hits and 6 sacks. And then we get the Jameis Winston. 26-46, 235 yards, a touchdown, and not 1, not 2, but 3 interceptions. Lloyd Gilman, Tarheeb Still, and Elijah Molden. He also had 5 carries for 27 yards. On defense, Myles Garrett, the reigning defensive player of the year, 4 solo tackles, 3 tackles for losses, 5 quarterback hits, and 3 sacks. And Dalvin Tomlinson, he had 2 tackles for losses, 3 quarterback hits, and a sack and a half. The Browns defense, although they still allowed points, they did the best they could. 10 tackles for losses, 11 quarterback hits, and 6 sacks on the day. Your thoughts on the Chargers dominating the Browns?
When it comes to the impact players of the game, I would say Jameis Winston with those 3 interceptions definitely set the tone for how the day was going to go for the Browns. But at the same time, this Browns offensive line has been absolutely terrible this year. They've been more human turnstile-ish than the Carolina Panthers when it comes to their protection for their quarterback back there. Not giving any excuses for Deshaun Watson, but we're starting to see it really come into fruition with Jameis Winston, even when DTR was in there for a little bit a few weeks ago. Looking at that for what it was, just kidding. Dobbins definitely got the ball going over there for the Chargers. And then you look at that for what Justin Herbert was able to do late in the game to help them go up by a few scores at that point. Definitely a great game for the Chargers is what we've been expecting to see out of the Chargers. They've had a little bit of a slow start to the year in comparison to what we thought they were going to be able to do with Jim Harbaugh, but at the same time, they're probably meeting the expectations of many with getting the win like this over the Browns. Good on the Chargers, good on Harbaugh and Herbert, especially my man Just Kidding Dobbins over there. But I feel bad for Jameis because those 3 picks, even though he is prone to throwing the picks, the pressure that he was under on this day was absolutely tumultuous.
Yeah, and that Chargers D, when they actually get rolling downhill, that's exactly what they will provide. So the Chargers, they improved to 5-3. The Browns, unfortunately, they now fall to 2-7, and hopefully they can right the ship and actually have a positive note to end on. Because a playoff berth is not going to happen for them. It's unfortunate. Whew. Now, you have the Broncos, you have the Ravens. They were in Baltimore, and only one team showed up. Final score of that game was 41-10. The Ravens absolutely dismantled the Broncos. And I actually had this conversation with a friend of mine. Lamar Jackson's line. 16 of 19, 280 yards, 3 touchdowns. And if I'm mistaken, I think he had a perfect quarterback rating in this game. 3 carries for 4 yards. I will take this stat line of Lamar Jackson every day of the week because I fully believe yesterday was the best NFL game he's ever played. Best one ever.
Yes.
Of course, it's helped by Derrick Henry. 23 carries, 106 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He had a reception of 27 yards as well. Zay Flowers, who he is coming into his zone and looks like he has a really good connection with Lamar Jackson. 5 receptions, 127 yards, and 2 of those 3 touchdowns. On defense, Tavius Robinson, which it looks like this defense, when they get a big lead, they can actually do some damage. Tackle for loss, pass defense, 4 quarterback hits, and 2 sacks. And that 2 sacks of Robinson paved the way and paced the way for the Ravens to attain 4 of them. And then you have Justin Tucker, who had 2 field goals, his long for 55. Bo Nix, he was 19 of 33, 223 yards, and an Darius Washington interception. He also had 6 carries for 36 yards. And the only bright spot really of the Broncos was Cortland Sutton, 7 receptions, 122 yards. All right, your thoughts on the Ravens being the better 5-3 team on this day?
This game was I needed that. Yeah, especially I needed it just as bad as I needed to see the Broncos take the This game was so bad. So bad as far as it being as lopsided as it was, because it just was not enjoyable to watch. You didn't have 2 competitive teams in there. Bo Nix definitely was, off his kilter for this day, and they could not get the run game going, which is something that the Ravens D has been really good at this year, establishing that run defense. So because of that, because literally their running backs on the Broncos side was running into a brick wall every single play that they ran into with Javonte Williams. Other than that, you got your rookie Bo Nix over there, who was definitely under a lot of pressure. It definitely showed not only on the scoreboard, but in the stat line for the day. Derrick Henry was an absolute monster again, and it's proven that when they get him going, they win games. When they have a hard time getting him going, that's when they result into the 3 losses that they have for the season. So looking at it for what it was, every single quarter, the Ravens dominated the Broncos in this one.
Yep. Perfect analysis. And this is really the breakdown for me. The number for the Ravens, and I think they need to write this down and bold print it and underscore it and underline it, 20. You need to have Derrick Henry touch the ball at least 20 times, because when he does, they're 6-0. When he does it, they're 0-3. I mean, it is just that simple and cut and dried. And since we're talking about Derrick Henry touching the ball more than 20 times in this game, well, the Ravens improved to 6-3. Unfortunately, the Broncos, with this thumping, they fall to 5-4. Now let's get to some competitive. Well, okay, fine. This really wasn't a competitive game, but this was a game that my partner actually would like anyway. The Commanders, they went to the Meadowlands to play the Giants, and the Commanders, they actually completed this year, what the Giants did to them last year, and that is a season sweep, beating them 27-22. Jaden Daniels, really a good game. I want this stat line to be pretty similar to this for him going forward, just so you cannot basically tire him out. 15-22, 209 yards, 2 touchdowns. He only carried the ball 8 times for 35 yards. I like that a lot. The Commanders offense, they spread the wealth on the ground. That's just how they roll. 149 yards on the ground. 42 of those yards came from the legs of Austin Eckler, who had only 11 carries. He did have a rushing touchdown. He also had 3 receptions for 41 yards. And on defense, Dante Fowler, who's really having a really good season. 2 tackles for losses, 2 quarterback hits, and 2 sacks. Daniel Jones. Actually, it was an okay game. 20-26, 174 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also had 7 carries and 54 yards. He had a rushing touchdown, but he also had a... Okay, your thoughts on the Commanders completing the season sweep of the Giants?
They buried them. They absolutely buried the Giants in this past week's game. If you are a Giants fan, it absolutely sucks to be you. And I remember what it was like to be you last year. I really do. This year, things are different. Have a hoodie with my name on it. Shout out to the unnamed fan who would like to remain anonymous at this time for sending this to me last week. As I now have Commander swag to add to the Commander swag, to add to the formerly known as the REDSKINS swag from back in the day. But yes, to watch this game was definitely enjoyable as a Commanders fan. Watching this team clicking on all cylinders with a very young quarterback in Jaden Daniels has been absolutely fun to watch. Terry McLaurin didn't really get a whole lot as far as yardage yesterday, but makes 2 big impactful scores with those 2 receptions that he had in this game. So looking at it for what it was, especially when you have the Commanders offense without Brian Robinson Jr., putting up 149 yards on the day was absolutely huge to watch that. Now, I would say this. You have to look at your opponent for what it is. It definitely was not as challenging as the opponent you had a few weeks back as the Ravens, and it wasn't as challenging as the opponent that you're going to have next week against the Steelers. Yes. But, for a division game, to get the division win is absolutely huge. You're undefeated in the division. You now go back home next week to face the Steelers. But the one thing, even though collectively the Commanders did really well as a unit running the ball, not anybody individually had more than 52 yards. So as an individual impact, that's the one thing that really concerns me at this point. They did have a lot of targets to Noah Brown on this day as well. Like I said earlier, Scary Terry only had 2 receptions, but those 2 receptions did turn into touchdowns. That defense still making noise, with their opponents. But I would say if you're a Commanders fan, the bright road to all these wins more than likely will come to a halt this weekend, but you shouldn't be upset about it because you put on a great run. And inside 10 games, if you have 3 losses, and especially to 2 of the best teams in the league, and the Steelers and the Ravens, if this happens this upcoming week, you have nothing to hang your head on.
I 100% agree. I 100% agree. And coming off the high that you all did from the previous Sunday, I think this is a really good sign because I think now you're starting to see this team actually look at squads like the Giants and they say we should beat them, and they treat the week as though they are better than that team, but they're going to respect the team enough to where they're going to put forth the effort to beat them. So that shows some maturity on that team, even with a rookie quarterback leading them. So yes, the Giants, they fall to 2-7. The Commanders, they lead the NFC East. And I'm happy to say this to you, my friend, at a 7-2 record. And yes, take that bow, because I did not have this feeling about my Texans last year until December. And now you're starting to feel it about a couple months earlier. And I'm so happy for you for that.
I appreciate that. I'm still not drinking the Kool-Aid fully, because you have to look at, all the teams that they've won against. They only won against one team that was over 500 at the time that they played. That was when they played the Bears. Every other team has been a dumpster Pelican team, except for the Cardinals, who have not come back to be first in their division. But you got to look at the division for what it is in comparison to the NFC East. But speaking of the NFC East, because of one comment, I have to click this button.
Oh, Lord.
Read it.
VLock83, Victor Lock, or Vicala. He says, good morning to the TFT tribe and the leaders. Good morning to the big game hunter of Dumpster Pelicans worldwide, Sensei Drew Willingham, and the EP of all EPs, Cole Johnson. And thank you to the Ed McMahon of the Snowman in the Morning program, Victor Locke. We totally appreciate you. And yes, you came in just a little bit after we talked about your Cowboys Falcons game, but you already know what happened there. We don't need to rehash.
It's kind of like how the team has played this year. They've just shut up just a bit too late.
Oh, that was brutal. Correct, but brutal. The Raiders, they go to Cincy. They continue their brutal stretch of play. They take it totally on the chin, on the behind, and in the taint too, to the Bengals, 41-24. Joe Burrow, 27 of 39, 251 yards. He did have an interception. Jack Jones gave him that pick, but he threw for 5 touchdowns. He also had 3 receptions for 3 carries of 11 yards. Chase Brown, I almost had to do a double take when I saw a Bengals running back actually run for over 100 yards. 27 carries, 120 yards. He also had 5 receptions with 37 yards and a receiving touchdown. Mike Gesicki, the tight end of the team, 5 receptions, 100 yards, and 2 of those 5 touchdowns. The Bengals defense, they had 7 tackles for losses, 3 quarterback hits, 5 sacks, but Trey Hendrickson really was the star of this game. 4 solo tackles, 4 tackles for losses, a pass defense, 7 quarterback hits, and not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 sacks of Raiders QBs. And I say QBs because you had Gardner Minshew start. 10-17 on 24 yards. You also had to carry for no yards. And it looked like he saw the pine, though. And Desmond Ridder, not Aiden O'Connell, came in. He was 11-16 for 74 yards. He did throw a touchdown. He had a carry for 2 yards. He also had a y'all got to take better care of that ball. Jacoby Myers, he had 8 receptions, 105 yards. And I mentioned the Jack Jones pick of Joe Burrow. Your thoughts on the Bengals just basically having their way with the Raiders?
That's literally what it was they literally had their way with them. The Raiders couldn't establish the run. They couldn't establish the pass. They couldn't establish anything in this game. It was absolutely terrible. It seems like the Raiders are competitively playing for one thing, though, and that is the number 1 overall pick next year. They are one of 7 teams right now who are currently 2-7. Mm-hmm. So they have a 1-7 chance right now to get this number 1 overall pick, and they're playing like they want it. They absolutely are. That's the one positive thing I can say about this Raiders team, because Mattinson cannot get the ball going. 36 yards on 9 carries, absolutely dumpster Pelican worthy. Looking at Gardner Minshew, the second, 10-17 for 124 yards, absolutely dumpster Pelican worthy. The only positive note they had in this game was the fact that Jacoby Myers had 105 receiving yards of Gardner Minshew's 124 passing yards. So he only had 19 passing yards without Jacoby Myers on this day. It's an absolutely wild stat line to look at.
Mhm.
Looking at this game for what it is, from the start to the end, this Bengals team was absolutely, demolishing this Raiders team. Good on the Bengals to fight their way back to a 4-5 record, one game under 500, to keep the talk of them actually being a slow starting team still alive, in the fact that they still have a chance. They have a better chance of making the playoffs than the Jets. And if you would have asked me that after week 3, I would have told you were smoking crack. So when it comes to that, definitely big on the Bengals. It's a lot about their coaching staffs. It's a lot about the grit of their team. But they still have a long ways to go if we want to take them seriously as a playoff threat.
You are 100% correct. I will not push back on anything of what you said there. I totally agree. Yes, the Bengals, they improved to 4-5. Whew, that game they have to play next week, though. And you mentioned 2-7. Well, the Raiders are one of those teams that has that 2-7 record. So, you're right. They may be playing for Carson Beck or Shadur Sanders. Boy, tough times ahead. All right, let's get to a little bit more of a competitive game. This actually was, how can I put this? This was a toilet bowl game that got interesting in the fourth quarter. The Patriots were down 17-10 on the very last play of the game. And on the Titans 5, Drake May had a drink served to him. He ate a meal. He had dessert served to him. He even had a Hooters girl get on his lap and kiss him before he delivered a wounded duck 5-yard touchdown pass to Ramondre Stevenson to tie the game at 17 and to send it overtime before the Titans get the field goal and hold off the Patriots 20-17 in overtime. I mean, Drake May had all day to throw on that last play. Mason Rudolph, 20 of 33, 240 yards, 2 touchdowns, a pick. That pick came onto the hands of Jelani Tavai. He also had 4 carries for 19 yards. Tony Pollard, a really good game. 28 carries, 128 yards, 3 receptions for 26 yards. So yes, he was pretty much the offensive stick for the Titans. Their defense did pretty good. 9 quarterback hits and 4 sacks on the day. Drake May, I mentioned that one play. He was 29 of 41, 206 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks. They came courtesy, both of them, of Armani Hooker. He also had 8 carries for 95 yards, and memo to Gerard Mayo, the head coach of the Patriots. Do not have your quarterback lead the team in rushing. All right, your thoughts on the 20-17 overtime victory by the Titans?
It was actually nice to see a quarterback play quarterback for the Titans this week. Definitely felt like when watching Mason Rudolph in comparison to Will Levis.
It is a 9-day difference, yeah.
Oh, well, yes, it was. And that's how you were able to win this game in this Dumpster Pelican Bowl of the Week is what it felt like. With watching it during the first half. The second half, it felt like a real game. Because going into the half, it was only 7-3, and, deservingly so when you look at how both teams were playing. But it was back and forth in the third and fourth quarter, and which is why it took us into double overtime, which is definitely cool to actually see our first game, go that far. I mean, not double overtime, into overtime this year. So the fact that we saw a game going to overtime, Amani Hooker with his 2 interceptions is what kept this defense in it. And it's how the Titans were able to win this game right there. I would say they lean more on their defense than they did on Mason Rudolph. But Mason Rudolph did do a decent job playing, game manager throughout this game. He definitely showed that he is a true veteran within this league. One interception that he threw wasn't horrible, but Drake made those 2 interceptions that he threw, especially that one late one, definitely made an impact in this game. So looking at that for what it is, definitely huge between those two and the lost fumble. I mean, these are going to be the bumps in the road he takes as a rookie quarterback, but at this point in the season, I'd say it was a good job by Gerard Mayo to finally get him in to play this last second half of this year to get him experience, because he's going to need his experience when they start up next year.
Yeah, they are. And I'm actually liking what I'm seeing with Drake, man. I've got a chance to see a few games. I saw him play against the Texans, saw him play against the Jets, and of course, I got a chance to see him yesterday. I like what I'm seeing. It looks like he learned a little bit from when he played in North Carolina. So it looks like he's progressed from there to here, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he progresses from here to the next year, because he looks like he has the tools. Now I just hope the Patriots surround him with talent, because a talent like that needs to have good talent around him to actually have him succeed, and hopefully that does happen. You mentioned 2-7. Well, the Patriots are another one of those 2-7 teams. The Titans are not, because they improved to 2-6. And now a game of the week contender. You had the Dolphins travel to Western New York to play against the Buffalo Bills, and their arch rival, well, it pretty much was the usual affair. The Dolphins see the Bills. The Dolphins get run over and beat by the Bills, but they didn't get run over. They did suffer defeat by them. Pretty good game, 30-27. The Bills win it. Josh Allen, other than that Texas game, I think this is probably, and this is actually a compliment when I say this is probably the worst game other than that Texas game he played. 25-39, 235 yards, 3 touchdowns and a pick, 2 carries to 7 yards. Now it's like, that's not a bad stat line. It just goes to show how well Josh Allen has been playing this year for me to say that. Ray Davis, 4 carries to 20 yards, but his output was basically in the receiving game. 2 receptions, 70 yards and a touchdown. Tyler Bass, he was 3 of 3 with field goals. His long was, of course, the game winner with 10 seconds to go from 61 yards. And then we get to Tua Tagovailoa. Really good game. Not good enough to win, but a good enough game. 25-28, 231 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also had 2 carries, 3 yards. Devon Achane, I think he was basically the one to pace the way for them. 12 carries and 63 yards to rushing touchdown. He had 8 receptions, 58 yards, and a receiving touchdown. Raheem Mostert helped out Achane on the backfield. 10 carries to 56 yards. He also had 2 receptions, 32 yards. Unfortunately, he also had a and we actually had a Tyreek Hill sighting. 4 carries for 80 yards. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the Dolphins had like 150 yards on the ground. So they really did some damage on the ground. And Jalen Ramsey, he did have that pick of Josh Allen. Spelling names. Your thoughts on actually a pretty good game that the Bills took at the very last minute?
The leadership by Josh Allen continues to grow over there in Buffalo, as if it wasn't for him being able to lead this team in a comeback there at the end, this would not be possible. A division game that came down to the wire. Tua finally, in my opinion, looked fully healthy in this game. I still feel like if you touch his head wrong, he's going to have another concussion. Mm-hmm. But from the neck down, he's still looking pretty healthy, and you got to be healthy upstairs in order to be able to be fully connected from the neck down. So I'd say he's looking pretty good. This was not a game that you can point the finger at what they did wrong. It's just the other team did things a little bit better. They were just one step ahead, literally, is what it comes down to. So big game for Josh Allen and the Bills as they continue to make their mark and try to be a true contending AFC team. They still have a ways to go, though, as there still is one undefeated team left in the AFC and in the NFL altogether. And that's the team they got to get through, more than likely, to get to the big dance. But so far, so good for the Bills.
Well, Well, they do. I forget if it's November or December, but they do have the Chiefs coming to town eventually, so they'll have that. But I agree with you. That still is a high mountain to climb, whether they play them in the regular season or in January. But they do have the second best record in the AFC as of right now. Anyway, they improved to 7-2. The Dolphins, game as they are, unfortunately, they fall to 2-6. Yeah, it's unfortunate. All right, more Sunday games. All right, let's go to a game where I really feel, when I think about this one, I actually feel a little disappointed. And the reason being, it is the Jaguars against the Eagles. The Eagles, they won the game 28-23, but the Eagles had a 16-0 lead in this game and a 28-16 lead in the fourth quarter. And the Jaguars actually had the ball driving down the field, and they could have actually won it if Trevor Lawrence actually had the presence of mind to make the right play. Jalen Hurts, I'll take this stat line, except I would like that carry count to lower. 18-24, 230 yards and 2 touchdowns, 13 carries and 67 yards on a rushing touchdown. You should not have him run the ball that much. Saquon Barkley, what can I say? If he is not getting MVP love and run, something is absolutely wrong. 27 carries, 159 yards and a touchdown on the ground, 3 receptions, 40 yards and a touchdown through the air. Unfortunately, the only gripe, he did have a Devontae Smith, 4 receptions, 87 yards and a touchdown. Prayers with AJ Brown. Looks like he may be going down with an injury himself. Hopefully everything is fine with him. On defense, Josh Sweat, 2 tackles for losses, 3 quarterback hits, and 2 sacks. And then you have on the other side Trevor Lawrence, 16-31, 169 yards, and 2 interceptions. One from Zach Braun, the other, the game-sealing interception, Nakobe Dean. He also had 5 carries for 8 yards. He had 2 rushing touchdowns. And Jaguars on defense, Josh Hines, 4 solo tackles, 2 tackles for losses, 2 quarterback hits, and 2 sacks. All right, your thoughts on the Eagles squeaking by at home against the Jaguars?
Dante, you should be ashamed of yourself for many things, but one thing is in the fact of this Eagles team, you have a team that went for it way too many times on fourth down yesterday. And had they not gone for as many fourth down attempts and missed, this game would have been they would have had a little bit more of a score, to pad it a little bit. Okay. It wouldn't have been as close as it was. Looking at it for what it is, Nick Sirianni is more than likely, I don't care if they even get to the NFC Championship this year. He's gone after this year.
He's got to win the ball.
Yeah, you can't be making decisions like that, in my opinion. You're not the Detroit Lions. Detroit Lions not only call for it as many times as they do, but they actually convert on fourth downs 3/4 of the time. So, looking at it for what it is, hopefully they learned that lesson yesterday that, yes, maybe going for it once a game or twice, but not 17 times what it felt like they were going for it on fourth down and 2-point conversions and all these other different things that they kept missing on the day. So, if you're the Eagles, you have a long, long road ahead of you as far as adjustments you need to make, but you are still, with all that being said, only 1 game out of tie in the division in the NFC East. Hopefully they can keep it together, but hopefully not.
This is why I'm sorry. This is why I love Dante, because he is so critical of his team. He's like, look, and I agree with him on this, and I agree with you on this too. It's like, stupid Nick, just kick the field goal. Thank you. If you're in range to kick a field goal, forget going for it. Take the doggone points. And he also said that Saints fired Allen, which we'll get to that game a little later. He says Nick should be next. And again, Saquon Barkley, if he isn't getting MVP love I'm not saying he's a front runner, but if he's not getting any MVP love, something's wrong. Hurled a man backwards, and that was not a fumble. Well, that's true. It wasn't. And he also said it's not Madden. He has to go. Well, right now he's not going anywhere except to your locker room because they improved to 6-2. 2-7 is what the Jaguars will be, and I agree with you, Drew. And I'll say this on air and be public and have it be recorded. The only way Nick Sirianni will be the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles next year is if the Eagles win the Super Bowl this year. And I don't see them doing that. And if he keeps making boneheaded decisions like what he did yesterday, you most certainly won't see it. And it will cost his team with those dumb decisions of going for it instead of taking points. Ugh, man. I can't think of any other way to describe this game. The Cardinals, they hosted the Bears, and it looks like the Bears still have that hangover from Landover. 29-9 was the final score. The game really wasn't that close. Kyler Murray didn't even seem like he was interested in this game, but he had a pretty good one. 13-20, 154 yards. He had 2 carries of 6 yards. And so he just basically played game manager, which is fine. Sometimes you have to do that. James Conner, 18 carries under 7 yards, and they need to have more of those types of games from him. He also had 3 receptions for 12 yards. Emari DeMarcado, 4 carries for 59 yards and a rushing touchdown, and 2 receptions for 21 yards. On defense, Zaven Collins, he had a tackle for loss, 3 quarterback hits and 2 sacks. Xavier Thomas, he had a tackle for loss, 2 quarterback hits and a sack and a half. And poor Caleb Williams, they put him down to the turf, 12 quarterback hits and 6 sacks. They also had 5 other tackles for losses as well. Speaking of Caleb Williams, 22 of 41, 217 yards, 4 carries, 5 yards, and a possible injury on hand. Eberflus, you got to think. The game was out of reach. Why still? Never mind. DeAndre Swift, 16 carries, 51 yards, 6 receptions for 31 yards. Roma Dunze, 5 receptions for 104 yards. And Cairo Santos, 3 field goals, so 3 field goal attempted. The long was from 53. And those are all the points the Bears scored off of Santos' leg. Your thoughts on this game?
The leg came through. The leg came through big there for this team, towards the end. Looking at this game for what it was, definitely, it was lopsided from the jump. If it wasn't for the leg, they wouldn't have even had any points. That's why I said it was huge for what it was. Caleb Williams struggled, definitely regressed since that battle of the number 1 and number 2 overall pick matchup from the previous week. And I'm glad that he waited to have this type of performance until a week later completely, so that way I got to see something competitive during my time at Northwest Stadium last week. But against this Cardinals team, it kind of goes to show how good the Commanders team is, mollywopping the Arizona Cardinals that they did earlier in the season. Yet, it had the Commanders played this team at this point in the year, it could have gone a different way as well, because the Cardinals weren't clicking on all cylinders then. But to finally get to face another NFC East team, which is probably one of the most competitive divisions in the league, and you get this type of win over a Cowboys team that has had all the hype that it's had for 30 years and continuously loses for all the Tyrod and Alizé dummies out there and taking the big old – that's just how I feel about it. This game was absolutely ugly.
How did this devolve into a Cowboys take? Oh my gosh.
Well, the reason why that it became a Cowboys take is consistently because of this.
This has been yet another Beating a Dead Horse presentation.
Because although the Bears are not an NFC East team, they have played NFC East teams this year, and the mojo should have rubbed off on them considering that the Arizona Cardinals have played the NFC East teams, and it didn't. And that's how we're here. You are muted.
And Victor, I guess this is where I get kicked around again. And we weren't even talking about your division. That's what makes it even funnier. Oh my gosh. So the Bears, they dropped the forward four. The good Lord. The Cardinals, they improved the 5-4. And oh Lord, sick. Perhaps the Cardinals should convince EA Sports to have Kyler Murray as the cover star for Madden NFL 26. That might get him to get his head in the game.
Well said. That's why I had to click the button.
Oh my gosh. The Cardinals, they improved the 5-4. And going into week 10, they actually lead the NFC West. Oh my gosh. We had a clash of the Titans between the Lions and the Packers on the very wet tundra of Lambeau Field. And quite frankly, the Packers didn't show up. The Lions just dominated, punched, kicked, and just mollywopped the Packers. I know the score doesn't reflect it, but the Lions controlled this game from opening kick of the final gun, 24-14. Jared Goff, I will say this on air right now. He is my front runner for MVP right now. 18-22, 145 yards, a touchdown, 3 carries and -2 yards. Now you can say, well, that's not stats that really wow you. Last 6 games, more touchdowns, 28, than incompletions, 24. There you go. David Montgomery, that 1-2 punch with him and Jahmyr Gibbs, chef's freaking kiss. Oh my God. 70 carries, 73 yards. He also had 3 receptions, 23 yards. And I'm not mistaken, I think Jahmyr Gibbs had like 65 yards along with him. Kirby Joseph on the other side, he had a pick. And that pick came from the arm of Jordan Love. 23 of 39, 273 yards. And that pick also resulted in a pick 6. Jordan Love also had no yards on 3 carries. Josh Jacobs was really the only hope other than maybe Jayden Reed with the catch here and the catch there. 13 carries, 95 yards. He also had 2 receptions, 13 yards. Speaking of Jayden Reed, 5 receptions, 113 yards. And Brandon McManus, 2 of 3 for field goals. Your thoughts on the Lions really showing that they are a team to look out for?
Oh, this Lions team has been my NFC pick since preseason, like even probably into the summer, especially when they got Jake Bates, the kicker. I mean, that was probably what put the icing on the cake, in all honesty, just because they needed help on special teams. They really did, and that was one of their weaknesses last year. And looking at what this team did, if you bet on the Packers to win this game, hopefully you cashed out in the first quarter, because there's no way that you made a positive. You went in the positives for the rest of this game, because the Detroit Lions were clicking from the second quarter on, and early in the second quarter on, when they scored 17 points in this game. I was watching this. The big factor of this game right here was the rain, the hail. It was absolutely terrible weather to be playing in yesterday. But that's why these players get paid millions of dollars, is for these situations right here. The way that this field was designed that they were playing in yesterday was it kept the fans dry, but it didn't really keep the players on the field
dry.
So there were multiple games that were affected by rain, but this one was affected the most by rain. And you could see, in comparison, you saw that what told me the Lions were definitely not going to lose this game was when you saw the camera panning to both coaches. it would pan to Dan Campbell, and he's walking through like his body is cutting through the ice, cutting through the rain. He was looking like a true warrior. Didn't even have his hood up, had a hat on, was walking through, talking on his headset. You look at Matt LaFleur. He's got his hoodie up. I'll do the impression because I got a hoodie on today. He's got his hoodie up like this. You know what? He's even got it zipped up all the way. I mean,
that's exactly how he looked.
And it was like right here. He was walking on down, like this. But he was
exactly scared. How it looked. Oh my God.
The Packers looked scared in this game with their hoods up, hiding in front of people on national television. They look scared. The Lions are those dogs for my man Hawk. They are the dogs, and they are coming. They are still my NFC pick.
I think that pick should be stronger because they are looking absolutely. I mean, seriously. I'll go so far as say they are my favorite team to watch. Yes, I know I root for the Texans, but they're my favorite team to watch. I love to see them on defense, although I think that's where you can actually get them. But their defense, they play hard too, and I love that. They play hard. They play as one on defense, and on offense, they just are physical, and they just believe you are not more man than us, and we get on the field, we're going to prove it to you. I love when I see offenses like that, and then you have a quarterback that's like, look, my job is to get you the ball. I'm not going to do anything special except just get you the ball and not make a mistake. I love the Lions. I love watching them play. I've seen them. I've seen a few games. Love it. They improved to 7-1. They easily have the best record in the NFC. The Packers, they fall to 6-3, and they have a little company with the Vikings. Well, we'll touch on that a little later. But and the game was like 49 degrees. You would think that with LaFleur be wrapped up like that in a hoodie, you would have thought the game was colder, but it just goes to show. And speaking of the Vikings, the Sunday night game was in the Twin Cities as the Vikings hosted the Colts. And the Vikings, they defeated the Colts 21-13. Sam Darnold. Okay. I'll put it that way. 28-34, 290 yards, 3 touchdowns. I'll touch on the portion later. 4 carries for 14 yards. He had Aaron Jones, 21 carries for 64 yards, 4 receptions for 18 yards. Justin Jefferson, 7 receptions for 137 yards. Man, he came close to getting a couple touchdowns, a touchdown a couple times. On the opposite end, the man of the hour for them, Jonathan Grenard, former Texan, 2 tackles for losses, of pass defense, 2 quarterback hits, and 2 sacks of Joe Flacco, who was 16 of 27. He was 179 yards, and he did throw a pick. I forgot who received the pick. That's me. He also had 2 carries for a -1 yard. He also had Grover Stewart on defense, a tackle for loss, 2 quarterback hits, and 2 sacks. The Colts did have 4 sacks, and Darnold did throw 2 picks, one under the Nick Cross, the other to Zaire Franklin. You also had Kenny Moore, who actually, in that lost fumble, returned it for a touchdown, that being the only touchdown that the Colts scored, meaning the offense did not score a touchdown. Matt Gay, he gave you the other points, 2 of 3, along for 54 yards. And I think he had a gimme that was a miss. And Reichert had a couple of gimmies, I think there were misses. A flawed game, but it turned out to be pretty good starting the third quarter. Your thoughts on the Vikings and Colts?
With this, it's like I was telling you last night when I was texting you, I was saying, man, they keep panning to Joe Flacco in between drives, and it looks like he's going to take a nap over there on the bench. He looked tired. Playing these late games, they got to keep him playing. They got to keep Old Man River playing 1:00 afternoon games, even for our guy Trayvon Diggs, who shows up in the chat over here on Twitch. Shout out to Trayvon Diggs over here if that really is him. But hey, your brother, shout out to him. Hopefully he gets healed up pretty quick with that knee injury that he took, here recently. Very bad for my man Cole's team.
Yeah.
But they definitely, missed him yesterday. But what I will say is this: besides panning to the old man river, taking naps on the sideline, they could not get the running game going. This game looked close on paper, but it was far from close in reality. It really was, because, besides the lack of run game, Joe Flacco was not on the money in this game. He did have 11 incompletions, threw for under 200 yards, could not get the ball in the end zone, and did throw an interception. I thought it was interesting. He had 2 carries on the day for -1 yards as well. So they need to keep the old man from running the ball. But yes, until they can truly get Jonathan Taylor going, which if they would have been able to establish him running, they would have had a true chance. But this Vikings team is definitely well-rounded between offense and defense. They've got the first and third oldest cornerbacks in the league on defense over there on the Vikings. And they showed up and played last night. So looking at that for what it is, if you are a Vikings fan, you got to be excited for what you're seeing. Yes, you did lose 2 consecutive games coming into this week, falling to 5-2, but you bounce back, get to 6-2 after that type of win. You did it against a pretty decent team overall. I mean, the Colts were a 500 team coming into this, and, with Joe Flacco, the hype was on him, Super Bowl winning champion from over a decade ago, bounced around as a journeyman, did pretty good last year with the Browns, coming back now with the Colts, being named the starter for the remainder of the year while they benched Anthony Richardson, well, at least indefinitely. On paper, they were in this game, but if you actually watch this game like I did and Cole did as well, just because it was close on paper doesn't mean it was close through and through.
No.
And once the Vikings scored their last touchdown, it was 21-10. It was less than 2 minutes left, and it was less than 3 minutes left in the game. And there was nothing that the Colts could do at that point. Yes, they were able to get a field goal. They tried to do the onside kick with 20-some seconds left, and it didn't quite work out. Even though that was, I will have to say, a very beautiful onside kick.
Oh, no, it was executed well by the kicker. Yeah.
But what was executed even better was the blocking by the Vikings return team, because Justin Jefferson literally just caught that ball like they were boxing out in basketball, and it just stood there, and it was right to him. But the blocking was perfect around him. If it works out the way it does, because I know they're in the same division, they got to get the wild card if the Lions keep doing what they're doing. But if these two teams face off in the NFC Championship, I have a feeling between one of the great offenses of the NFL and the Lions right now, and the defense for what it is with the Vikings, because the Vikings defense has been carrying them in certain games that Sam Darnold has not been playing to his true high level. I have a feeling that this could be one of the great NFC championships of all time, because you've got two teams that have solid offenses, one a little bit better than the other in the Lions, and you've got the defense of the Lions that's really good. But on certain given Sundays, it's hard to tell which one of those two teams has the better defense, because on one Sunday, the defense of Detroit is looking like it's unstoppable, and then the next week, the Vikings are doing it too. But you have to look at the caliber of teams that they're playing against when they're doing this, and the Vikings lost to two true teams. They could beat them in 2 consecutive weeks. It's not like they lost to dumpster Pelican teams with the Vikings in those 2 weeks, and the Lions have only lost 1. I'm telling you, this is the NFC division, the NFC Conference Championship game I want to see, unless this team right here can't make it. But I'm not pushing that far. I don't think they're going to make it. I don't think they're going that far. I just want to see them make the playoffs. Even though I've got some videos over the weekend that speak otherwise, but I'll get to that with my final post-game thoughts. But when it comes to this right here, happy for the Vikings, happy for my man Nathan from work, which I will see at some point this week since I'm back from vacation.
Vikings fan, okay.
I will have to give him some props for getting their 6th win this past weekend. Good on them, good for him, and good for all Vikings fans out there.
Yeah, and I personally know a Vikings fan too, and he's ecstatic. In fact, he's so ecstatic he said that Sam Darnold's the MVP of the league, and I'm thinking, I said, unfortunately, it's another quarterback in your advantage is playing better, so no, I can't do it.
And you've been having too much hops and barley during those
Yeah.
games.
Can't do it. But I'm high on the team. They improved to 6-2, and I do like how they look. And when they played, some of the Lions and the Vikings, yeah, they play as though they are evenly matched too. So I like how that matchup would be, and I think that'd probably be the best NFC Championship matchup personally in terms of styles. But yes, they're 6-2. They're still looking up at the 7-1 Lions, and they still have another shot at them. The Colts, they fall to 4-5, and yeah, I agree with you. I love your analysis, and yeah, we talked about this off air too. Flacco did look tired, and not just on the sideline. The decisions he made on the field made me think he was tired too, because there was a third down play in the fourth quarter, and you had a linebacker that was playing off of the running back that was leaking out into the flat. But Flacco wanted to go 20 yards downfield into double coverage. But I'm thinking all you needed was like 3 yards. The check down was 5 yards beyond this line of scrimmage. You should have dumped it there, and he had the first down, and there was no defender within 5 yards of him. I'm thinking, okay, he's making bad decisions on the field, and that is unlike him. So you might be right in the terms of the exhaustion, because I think it's affecting the way he's thinking too, not just the way he actually looks on the sideline too. But yeah, the Colts need to fix that quick, fast, in a hurry, and they let their defense down because the defense held strong in the first half. They could not hold it together in the second, and it showed. But yeah, and I agree with you on the Vikings defense too. At times they look great, and other times, but yeah, in the second half, the Vikings defense was awesome. And now, you're probably saying, Saints Panthers, how is this possibly an upset? Well, the Saints were favored by 7.5, but the Panthers, they shut the door on the Saints, and unfortunately for one Mr. Allen, shut the door on his NFL coaching career, at least in New Orleans. Goodbye to him. I'm not saying that in a good way. I'm just saying it in a horrible way. 23-22 is the final score. Bryce Young, and I'm happy for him. He finally got his first win of this season. 16-26, under 71 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. He also had a wasted performance, and it's unfortunate. 29 carries, 155 yards, 6 carries for 60 yards. You had this man give you over 200 all-purpose yards, and this is the effort you given. Damn. The Saints overall offensively, they gave the Panthers 197 rushing yards. And Shamar Sean Charles, he was the one who picked Bryce Young off. Blake Group, 3 of 3 for field goals with a 51-yard for the longest one. All right, your thoughts on the Panthers getting the win in Charlotte against the Saints?
I think you know what I'm about to do. I just have to find it. It's coming. It's coming. This game was such a
horrible.
It was so bad that early on, very, very, very early on. And I mean, we weren't even in halftime yet. All right. We weren't. We were not at halftime. And I was thinking this. I wasn't even playing in the game. Right. I wasn't. But I felt like just from watching the game, had taken the Cole Johnson, you would talk about upset of the week. I was just upset. I was just pure upset because the caliber of these two teams, with Derek Carr and Spencer Rattler sharing the same juice box, because he looked just as rattled in this game as Spencer Rattler did in the past couple of weeks without sharing each other's juice box. That's how I felt, Cole Johnson. Yeah,
Oh my
talk about
gosh.
upset of the week. I'm getting upset right now just talking about it. You see me getting amped up. I haven't been this amped up in the past hour and 15 minutes we've been on the air, okay? But we're talking about this team right here. We're just talking about how there is a 7-team race for the championship of worst team in the league, as they all have 2-7 records now, okay? And it all happened based on this game right here. You had the Carolina Panthers, who were running away with the number 1 pick at the NFL draft yet again. And yet now you keep them in the race of not getting it because you beat them. And then you lose to them. And then you beat them. And you lose to them. And you lose to them this week when you have your number 1 quarterback come back. What's the point? Why didn't you just sit down this week? Were you trying to get your mojo back, playing the Carolina Panthers? You thought it was an easy team to get your mojo back? No, apparently not, because you lost to them. Why? Because you were sharing the same juice box from Spencer Rattler, and you got the rattled cootie. Exactly what happened in this game.
Sharing the same juice box. Oh my
Juice
God.
box cooties. That's the exact reason why you lost this game. That's my pick. ESPN won't tell you that, but Total Football Talk will. Juice box cooties.
Oh my gosh. He said they Spencer Rattler, Derek Carr sharing the same juice box. Oh my gosh, that is a good mental image picture for you. Oh my gosh. Well,
I know how else it can be entertaining with this game, because it absolutely was terrible.
oh God, I love that line. He says, look, forget the upset of the week. I was upset watching it.
Yeah, we'll make a short out of that one.
That was a good one. Well, the Panthers improved 2 and the Saints fall to 2-7. That is how bad it was. The fact that you actually have a team that you're saying, yay, they improve to 2-7. Goodness gracious. And now we've come upon the game of the week.
Yeah.
And it was the Seahawks hosting the Rams in Lumen Field. The Seahawks were down 20-13 with a touchdown pass from Geno Smith to Jackson Smith and Jigba, and an extra point. Now it ended up at 20, extended to overtime. And then we decided to have a brain fart when the Seahawks won the coin toss, got to the Rams 15, and decided to go for it on 4th and 1 instead of kicking the field goal. So they get stopped, the Rams take over, and they decide to go for 6, and they win. 26-20, the Rams beat the Seahawks in overtime. Matthew Stafford, he definitely was winging the ball over the place. 25 of 44, 298 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did throw a pick. And that pick, oh well. He also had no yards on a carry. Karen Williams, he had 22 carries for 69 yards. He also had a reception for 26 yards. Cooper Kupp looks like he's running back into form. 11 receptions, 104 yards. Demarcus Robinson, who was the key figure to me with Stafford actually getting on track. 6 receptions, 94 yards, 2 touchdowns, and that second touchdown was the 39-yarder, which was actually a good call to go deep, and it ended the game. Brandon Fitz on defense, 2 tackles for losses, 2 quarterback hits, and 2 sacks. The Rams defense, they had 8 tackles for losses, 11 quarterback hits, and 7 sacks. And Geno Smith, 21 of 34, 363 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a Jalen McCullough pick, and 2 Cameron Kitchens picks, one of them going for 103 yards for the pick 6. He also had 6 carries for 16 yards. Kenneth Walker III, decent game. I don't know why they decided to go with him on 4th and 1 in overtime. The Rams 15, 25 carries, 83 yards, 3 receptions for 24 yards. And Jackson Smith and Jigba, who had really the game of the stat line of the game, 7 receptions, 180 yards, and 2 touchdowns, including the 2 key catches to send the game into overtime, a 4th and 5 reception, and then the next play, a touchdown. Your thoughts on the NFC West rivals going in overtime to decide things?
You know, this game right here was huge in deciding who was going to be at the top of the West, or at least competitive with the Cardinals right now. And looking at it for what it is, the Seahawks should have won this game. Yes. But it was the fact that Jameis Winston had teleported into the body of Geno Smith because of the amount of interceptions he threw. He threw just as many interceptions as touchdowns. It was like Jameis's 2019 season all over again when he went 30 for 30 with touchdowns and interception ratio. That's what it looked like, except for there were no zeros at the end. It was just 3s. So with what Geno did in this game, he looked great half the time. But it was like Dr. Jekyll on one drive and Mr. Hyde on the other, because one drive he was on, the next drive he was off. One drive he was throwing it to his receiver, the next drive he was throwing it to the other team. That's what it felt like in this game watching it, because the first half of it, you could arguably say the first half it was the Seahawks ball game. They went into halftime winning 13-3. If you had money on them, you were looking pretty good. But the second half, the Rams still proved that they have dogs on their team, with Cooper Kupp especially. And then you've got especially Matthew Stafford, who is older now, but he still is a veteran presence in the locker room and on the field, and came through big at the end. However, the only reason why they came through big at the end was because they were put in position to have it that way, because Geno just kept putting them in great opportunities with their interception recoveries from Geno, and then the offense would be set up on the other side of the 50. So right here and now, I want to give praise to the Rams. I want to give praise to Playmaker especially. We miss you this morning there, sir. Hopefully you're doing well. But with the Rams, definitely a big win for him, especially being interlocked within the division. At the same time, I have to take it with a grain of salt, because I have to look at what the Seahawks gave them as early Christmas presents with all those gifted interceptions. So with when I put it in perspective, it's like I'm 50-50. I'm Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, like I was with saying Geno was throwing those completions to interceptions. One hand, I want to give praise to the team, but the second time I realized they are not the team that they were 3 years ago when they won the Super Bowl. So looking at it for what it is, you still have some pieces there that are representatives of that Super Bowl. They will get you through in tough times. But the reason why the Rams have 4 wins this year and 4 losses, the 4 wins, they have proven their true veteran presence is big leadership for this team. The other 4 losses, though, have been because they didn't have any turnovers from the other team to truly capitalize on. And in those veteran-led presences in those 4 wins, primarily a lot of those wins have come on the backs of turnovers from the other team. And this is another example of that. So as much as you want to be excited to be a Rams fan and to be at 500 today, they truly are in rebuild mode, in my opinion. They really are. Because, yes, they have weapons in Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, and they could build around them for the foreseeable future. But you have a quarterback question that you're going to have to address in the next season or two, and a whole lot of other positions to address at the same time. It's nice to see you at 500. It really is. But at the same time, you have a long, long road ahead of you to get back to where you were 3 years ago, and it's not happening anytime soon.
I 100% agree. And I think the rebuild mode began when Aaron Donald said, okay, yeah, it's time for me to hang him up. Although, yes, I know they had to think about that with Matthew Stafford even before this year, I think, or I should say before last year. It's now there. It's now in front of them, and that is what they have to concern themselves with thinking about. And I know they're trying to think, okay, let me see if we can win now, even with Stafford being as old as he is. But yeah, they're in rebuild mode. And yeah, they need to get the pieces around, and they have to think, okay, who's going to be the guy that's going to take over for Stafford? He's not on this squad right now. He isn't. But they improved to 4-4, and they dropped the Seahawks to 4-5. Well, that concludes not just the game of the week, it also concludes this episode's opening drive. And before we do go to our break, congratulations to our brother Ike, who had another child. Congratulations, my brother. Hope everything's good with you and the missus. And
nice. I didn't even know he was a father with some of the ththings that come out of his mouth. So that's awesome. But we're out of his fingers. But congratulations, Ike. That's awesome. I missed that.
Yeah. It's great. And I'm so happy for you. Congratulations to all of you. I hope everything is good with you. It's good to see you again, obviously.
Dante agrees with the rebuild. So definitely, with that. But yes, the big news of the day, if you guys are just tuning in, Ike is a father again. Nice. Congrats, Ike.
Yeah, we're happy for you, brother. Congratulations, man. And that's how we're going to go to our break.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989 on 2. Ready? Hey.
We're just getting started. Total Football Talk will return right after this. Whether it's news, the largest egg producer finds bird flu in chickens at a Texas plant, weather, devastating tornadoes rip through the heart of the United States, inspiration, a breast cancer survivor completed the journey of chemotherapy and now begins a future one of matrimony or sports. Michael Jordan is shown on a photo with Diddy. LeBron James has a video extolling the virtues of a Diddy party. This has been yet another beating a dead horse presentation. We got you covered. BS3 Network, in association with Comey Media Incorporated, proudly present The Morning Shift with Cole Johnson. Live every weekday at 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central. Hey, Eagles fan, join my man Cool McCain and a host of others as they break down every single game, every single week in an objective manner, and also from a fan's perspective as well. Remember, this cast feels just like you. Nobody likes you. And you don't care. Fly, Eagles, fly. Eagles Elite Podcast, every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on YouTube and other podcast outlets.
Everything Boston. I love you morons. New Kids on the Block, New Edition.
Dear whatever the law firm is. Sincerely, the U.S. Supreme Court.
Ben Affleck, Matt Damon. Go yourself again, Jason
Where are my dogs at? That's right. Welcome back to Total Football Talk with Drew Willingham. I'm Cole Johnson. It's time to award this episode's grand champ. Drew, the floor is yours.
As much as I want to be a true homer and go with the commies for what they've done with the 7-2 record, I can't do it. I got to go with the team that snapped a streak this past week in losses. I got to go with the team that's defense finally lived up to the hype. And I'm going to go with the defense, especially for what they did in the entirety of this game. And I've not even spoken in the positive way of this team, I don't think, all season. But I'm going to go with the New York Jets defense. Sorry, Cole. I really am. Because, it happened against your team. But, looking at it for what it is, I don't think you can disagree with me when I give it to them for the reasons of they had 10 tackles for loss, 11 quarterback hits, and they had eight total sacks on the day on CJ Stroud. Looking at Quentin Williams for what he did within that, he had 2 tackles for loss, 4 of those quarterback hits, and 1.5 of those sacks as well. Michael Clemens as well, 2 tackles for loss, a quarterback hit, and 2 total sacks. And Jamian Sherwood, 7 solo tackles, 2 tackles for loss, a quarterback hit, and 2 sacks combined for all those big numbers. It's absolutely wild that I'm sitting here on this Monday afternoon talking about the Jets defense in this light for this pick. Normally it's the snowflake of the week and not the dog of the week, but I can't not acknowledge them. And especially when you look at what, Aaron Rodgers did in the second half of the game and having 3 touchdowns in that half alone, even though that was a great performance, it was all set up on the backs of the defense and the New York Jets, of them being the reason why I'm picking this team and this side as my dog of the week.
Well, I'm glad you picked him, because if you didn't, I was. I would look. I don't feel sorry. In fact,
And
I would have done it for you.
ain't no shame in my game, bro.
None. I would have done it for you. I'm like, man, it sucked to see him get sacked 8 times, but I'm like, man, that offensive line of Texas got dominated. And yeah, it is credit to how that Jets defense were in that second half. All right. Let me see. Kirk Cousins, yeah, a good game. Justin Herbert, best game of the season. I really would like to go Lamar Jackson, but I'm not going to go there yet. Not with him. All right. My arm is twisted. So I think no, I'm not going to. I was going to go Burrow, but you know what? I'm going to go with Saquon, and the reason being, I think
Dante agrees.
I think we have undersold him. We've taken him for granted a little. And in my opinion, if it wasn't for him, and I think Dante would agree with me here too, if it wasn't for him, I don't think we'll see the Eagles at 6-2. And I think they're finally understanding that they need to feed this beast the ball. And if you feed him the ball, good things happen. Yeah, we could talk about the reverse. We could talk about the reverse jump. And he is an athletic marvel, but he steadies Jalen Hurts, which to me, that is one big plus. I think he helps the defense settle in and have them pin their ears back and actually be the dominant force that they can be when they don't make the mistakes and they actually decide to play like one unit. And he's not just a runner; he actually can be used on the backfield, which the touchdown, the last touchdown that was scored to basically make the final score margin happen. I said it in opening drive. I say it here. He has to be considered an MVP frontrunner, not the frontrunner, but he has to be considered one of them. I really do believe this is the reason why the Eagles are where they are. They are the number 2 seed right now if the season were to end now in the NFC, and it's because of him. And the sooner that Dick Sirianni gets on board with that, the further I believe this team can go. But if he believes that Jalen Hurts is going to be the guy where he has to wing it 40 times a game because he wants to satisfy Devontae Smith on one side and A.J. Brown on the other, forget it. And that is how important. I'll put it this way. With Derrick Henry, if he has to touch the ball 20 times a game for them to win, the same holds true for Saquon Barkley. He has to touch the ball 20 times for the Eagles for them to win. If he touches it less than that, forget it. You might as well count that as an L. But this Sunday, he touched the ball enough, 30 times. I can take that, and the team's riding a W. So yes, Saquon, you my brother, you the dog, bro. Yes, sir.
And Dante definitely agrees. He definitely does. As you saw what he said. He posted this just as you were about to say Saquon. I saw it pop up in the comments. So I got to give a shout out to Dante for that. You two were on the same page. As Six says, the Grand Champ is brought to you by Big Dog Collars. The best collars for any breed, be it a pretty poodle or a rugged Rottweiler. We've got you covered. That's Big Dog Collars. And he's on fire, as he also says. And Grand Champ Feed, the ideal brand of pet food for any household pet. Grand Champ Feed, the grand feed of championship breeds.
Oh Lord,
I had to. We were in the dog of the week. It was fitting.
No, I know it's fitting, and actually those are good ads. And just like Dante, who he agrees with me, and it's not simply because I'm picking an eagle, and it's named for him because it's an eagle. That's just the truth. Who is your dog this week? Who is your grand champ? We want to know. And this is going to be a little bit jumbled up, so it's not going to flow smooth, but we're going to go straight into this. 2-minute drill. It is here now, where it's not the best of the rest. It's the best period of week 10, which is all of week 10. But the teams you will not see for week 10, that would be the Browns, the Packers, the Raiders, and the Seahawks. That's right. Cleveland, Green Bay, Las Vegas, and Seattle. They have buys for the upcoming week we're about to preview. So we'll see games from those 4 teams, which will from the other 28. And we will start with tonight's game, which that will be, between the back-to-back champ Kansas City Chiefs. They're hosting the Bucks right now, and the Bucks are 4-4. The Chiefs are undefeated. ESPN, ABC, they're carrying it. It's an 8:15 kick. All times are Eastern. Who do you have in this one, and why?
It's hard for me to believe that the Buccaneers are going to lose 3 straight games in a row because they've lost the past 2 games to the Ravens at home and the Falcons at home. This time they are away at Arrowhead and against the defending back-to-back Super Bowl champions. It's not looking good for the Buccaneers tonight, but if I was a betting man for an upset for this week, and especially with the way that offense has played, I don't think the Chiefs can rely on their defense thoroughly throughout the season. However, the Buccaneers are banged up with Evans and Godwin over there with the wide receivers. So as you know, if you would have asked me this last week, my heart would have said the Buccaneers were going to win because I just don't see them losing 3 consecutive games. But considering the injuries that they've got on that offense, it's tough for me to pick against the Chiefs defense in this factor. I'm going to go with the Chiefs, but in a close one, it's going to be less than 7 points for the difference.
You mentioned one of the reasons why I'm not going to picking against the Chiefs, because yes, the Bucks are banged up. The other, although yes, I do realize that before the bye they play the Raiders and it's the Raiders, I actually got a chance to see their offense start to get in the gear and not just rely on a clutch first down run by Kareem Hunt, a clutch pass from Mahomes to whichever wide receiver you choose, and maybe a big time play somewhere along the line. You actually saw some continuity offensively for the Chiefs. And for those 2 reasons, that's why I'm picking the Chiefs at home. They're going to go to 8-0, and I agree. Did not picture this Bucks team actually going on a losing streak of 2 games, much less 3. So yeah, I agree with you there. But unfortunately, I think that's what we're going to be seeing.
Who's giving them the business?
And that's Monday. Now for Thursday. It's an AFC North matchup between the Bengals at 4-5 and the Ravens at 6-3. This game is at M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore. Amazon Prime will take that game. 8:15 is the kick there as well. Who do you have for that one? And the mute button strikes again.
Yes. For some reason, it was a little bit frozen on the screen. I couldn't unclick it for a second, so my apologies for the delay. But when it comes to this is a divisional matchup that have ramifications of, especially for the Ravens, it's more impactful because you're in that tight race with the Steelers. Okay. Back when you look at this, what was it? Week 1, 2, 3, 4. Week 5. Week 5, they faced off against each other, and the Ravens won this, in Cincinnati by only a field goal. Mm-hmm. With that being said, I will already go ahead and say that this win, whoever wins, and I'm going to say in a second, will not win by more than 7 points because it's a divisional game. It's going to be close through and through. But I do not see the Ravens winning this game because of how close it was. It's time for the Ravens to get handed a divisional L, and it's going to happen on Thursday Night Football. The Bengals have been coming back to prove they are not as bad of a team as what they started out to be, to prove that they continuously have the slow starts. They will improve to 500 in this game. This will be the upset of the week on our slate next week, and the Ravens will fall to 6-4.
Wow. Okay. Well, we're definitely going to be going different directions here. Since the Ravens already had their division loss, I see them actually still with that momentum of we're proving that we're better than that game we played at Cleveland. So I think they're the better team. I'm not saying this is going to be like 41-10 thumping like they just did yesterday. Divisional game. The Bengals seem to play them tough anyway. So yeah, I agree with the margin of victory. I think it's going to be 7 points or less. But I see the Ravens winning again because it's just that I want to see the Bengals give me a running game like they had yesterday, and I don't know if they can put that together and string it together because you got to help Joe Burrow out, and I don't know if the Bengals are. And that's the only pause that I have right there. Otherwise, I'm with you. I'm totally with you. All right, for the Sunday games, and I wish I had this, we have our first Germany game. 9:30 p.m. is the kick. It is the Giants at 2-7, facing off against the Panthers, giving up a home game, also at 2-7. NFL Network has this one. Who do you have getting this game in Germany?
Based on my body language there, this is what I would be doing during this game right here. Because no matter which one of your teams is in this game that you're pulling for, it's going to be absolutely. Germany, you just invited 2 total to play in your country. You, the people on the TV, and even the management staff all will take the... Watching this game, if you watch this game, this is a one of those warning label moments. If you watch this game, you will more likely lose 30 minutes of your life, total off of your life by the end of it, and it'll all be contributed to how much time you wasted by watching this game. the Giants are going to have to win this. I don't see the Panthers winning back-to-back games. And the Giants proved, even though they were buried by the Commanders in this last game that I had said, they do have flashes. I really like Malik Neighbors. Daniel Jones did have some solid moments. He did have a decent completion percentage for the day in comparison to what he's done all year. So I have to give the Giants a little love here, and they will get to their third win of the season to get out of the number one overall pick race.
I agree with the pick. I agree with the rationale of it. And I doubled down on that pick because you got Bryce Young, who's starting again. And yeah, I just don't see I don't see the Giants playing down to as bad of a level as the Panthers are. And yeah, Germany, we have to apologize on the NFL's behalf. They should not have put you in that position to have two dueling dumpster fires playing. Wow.
Hey, who's giving them the business?
All right, so we go to the Sunday afternoon games. We'll start with the 1 p.m.s. The Bears at 4-4, they return home, licking their wounds, and they have a team where they can feast on in the 2-7 New England Patriots. Fox will have that kick. 1 p.m. is the opening kickoff time. Who do you have in that one?
Yeah, this game will be a lot more competitive than the previous game we just talked about. And considering the fact that it's a 1 o'clock game, so you will not have an old man taking a nap over there on the bench. They're in between drives. So that was good. But this Buffalo Bills team has been hot this season. They've remained hot even after, acquiring Amari Cooper from trade, and a trade that they needed after they were missing the presence of a star wide receiver like Stephon Diggs last year in that locker room. And they got it with Cooper, and they especially had a very nice come from behind win against a very good rival in the division of the Dolphins. This is not quite, as much of a competitive game as that, but it will not be a complete blowout like it was like the Broncos took in this past week. So for that being what it is, I have the Bills winning this game. It will not be as much of a deficit as the last game I talked about, or it will not be as close to the previous game we just talked about. But I feel like the Bills will at least win this game by 10 points.
I can see that. Yeah, I can totally see that. Yeah, I have the Bills over the Colts. I also have the Bears over the Patriots.
Hey, who's giving them the business?
All right, so another 1 p.m.'s kick. Fox has this game. The Saints at 2-7, free falling, and they're hosting their big-time arch rival Falcons. They're riding high at 6-3. Who do you have in that one?
I did it again. To give back to the pick that we missed, because that's what kind of, with you throwing that off, no offense, but that kind of threw me off like for a second because I was looking this up. The Bears are going to beat the Patriots. I do have that as my pick there. And the Falcons are going to beat the lowly Saints, especially, Derek Carr was trying to get his reps for this game by playing against the Panthers and ended up backfiring and losing because they thought, oh, this is an easy game to get some reps in for. Nah, you just gave yourself even more bad juju going into this home game against the Falcons in a divisional game that you're going to lose another division game to another good opponent. Falcons improved to 7-3. Saints fall to 2-8. Dennis Allen is on his way out the door when he loses this game too.
Well, he actually already is out the door.
Oh, he is.
Official as of today, yes, he has received the pink slip, so he's out.
Oh, nice. Well, that's a surprise to me. I would have seen that later, but yes. Well, then the interim will lose his job after this week.
Oh gosh, that's bad.
It's going to be that bad.
The interim only has one game. That is bad.
Yep, they're going to bring the janitor in to run the game.
Yeah, and of course, for a Saints fan, it's even worse that they will have to suffer a season sweep of the Falcons. And believe me, I know this rivalry very well. These teams hate each other, and the fan bases hate each other too. And Saints fan ain't gonna like that. All right, another 1 p.m. kick. Fox has this as well. The 4-4 Buccaneers. They will host. Well, they're 4-4 now. They probably will be 4-5 more than likely when this game is kicked off. They host the now 4-4, and they will be 4-4 when they get there, San Francisco 49ers. What do you have in this one?
The 49ers have not been playing up to the hype this year. With McCaffrey and the tendonitis, having wide receivers that are banged up, this offense has not looked like they once were. And the Buccaneers are going to have a tough matchup in this Monday game with the Chiefs. And whether they win or they lose, more likely like they're going to lose because we're both picking it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're gonna learn something from this game. Because, yes, they've got back-to-back losses. This will be 3 consecutive losses, and I do not see them taking a 4th, especially at home. I have the Buccaneers winning this game to improve to 5-5, and the 49ers falling to 4-5.
Well, I actually see the 49ers winning this game, and I see it because they have these slow starts, and they need to have that game against the Cowboys, and they're gonna steamroll every team along the way, and they're going to be 13-4 after this season is over.
That was a lie.
Yes! Yes! You saw me zoom in this camera. You knew something was happening.
Oh, sorry. I was channeling someone. No. Even though the Buccaneers have been battered and bruised, I'm not really impressed by this 49ers squad. I really am not, and I think they need a humbling. I think they need to have a game where they believe they can actually win it, and they just simply wet the bed. And I think this is going to be that game. And so I agree with you. I think the Bucs are going to take it too. I just am not sold on the 49ers at all. I really am not.
Same. And I just, it's a big part of this. I just don't see the Buccaneers losing 4 consecutive games. Like, I can see the 3rd consecutive one being a factor. And I wouldn't be surprised if they win that game, to be honest, and having 2 consecutive wins. But more than likely, they're going to be coming off of 3 consecutive losses. I do not see them taking a 4th to this 49ers team. And yeah, it's just not looking good if you're a 49ers fan right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't see the Bucs going on a 4-game losing streak either.
Hey! Who's giving them the business?
All right, another 1 p.m. kick. This one is on CBS, and this, of course, would be definitely one of the games of the week, if not the game of the week. And of course, it revolves my brother's team, the Commanders. They host the Steelers. The Commanders are 7-2. The Steelers are 6-2. All right. Who do you have in this one?
See it. You like it. Indulge in it. It's back.
Not the number one, not the foam hand. Foam.
I really want to pick this team. I really want to pick this team. The tattoo on my left arm, pre-name change, wants me to stick within the pick, but that would be a homer pick. I can't do it. I just can't do it. As much as I like what I'm seeing out of this offense, as much as what I like to see from this defense, especially just signing off Seabird off the street and doing what he's doing, I'm not fully sold on this defense. The defensive front, yes. The middle linebacking core, yes.
That's why I'm sold on your defense.
The secondary, I am not sold on. And the secondary is the reason why the game was close with the Giants. The secondary is why the game was close against the Bears and why all the other games, except for like 1 or 2, have been close this entire year. They need to continue to retool on that defense this offseason, whether it's draft picks, free agency. They need to make some more moves. Of course, they need to make some more moves on offense, but not as many as they need to make on defense. And they're facing one of the best, if not the best defense in the entire NFL right now.
Wow.
So, looking at that for what it is, even though the Steelers' offense is not as good as the Commanders' offense right now, in my opinion. The offense, Commanders got them beat. But when it comes to the battle of the defense, which makes a huge impact in games like this, when you have 2 offenses facing up against each other, the Commanders' offense is not going to be as explosive as it has been over the first 9 weeks. Doesn't take anything away from what you've done. 7-3 is still a respectable record. That's what they're going to fall to in this game at home. It's going to be electric. There are going to be some explosive plays. It is going to be close. Very similar to when they played the Ravens, when I told you then, Cole Johnson, that it was going to be a 7-point or less game, and I was right. And I said the Ravens were going to win. I'm going to say the exact same thing for this game right here against their divisional opponent, and I'm going to say the Steelers win this game by 7 points or less.
If the Steelers offense was a little more potent, I'd ride with you. And yeah, they're better with obviously they're better and they're more fluid with Russell Wilson under quarterback than Justin Fields, and they have looked pretty good the last 2 games they played. And I'm with you. I think that the Commanders secondary can be had, but man, does that front four make up for that secondary though? Whew. It's like it's like every time I look at whenever I see a Commanders game, it's like, wow. They can get some pressure on the QB, and if they can make Wilson tap dance a little bit in that pocket, I like what I see. And on the other end, it's going to have to. God, this actually is going to go against type for me. This actually might have to be one of those games where Jayden Daniels' legs is going to have to probably be the impetus for how they can succeed on offense. I don't want them to run crazy, but I just think it's going to have to take unscheduled plays for them to succeed. And I think they can get just enough of them to manage it. And I don't think the Steelers defensively, yes, I'm with you. They can win the game just on that side of the ball alone. But I think the Commanders defense can force a couple of mistakes out of that offense of the Steelers. And because of that, and it's at home, I actually we'll get the Commanders over the Steelers. I just get a feeling that I think the Steelers are going to take a nail on this one. But your logic is on point, though.
Wow!
Surprise, motherfucker.
So I feel right now, for one, that I'm picking against the Commanders, which I just logically, like you said, it just makes sense. Mm-hmm. But your argument makes a very strong case, too. I just can't go against a TJ Watt-led defense, for one. Mm-hmm. That is healthy and clicking on all cylinders now.
Yes, and he's healthy, right.
And if this was Justin Fields at quarterback, the Steelers, I would 1,000% agree with you. But this offense looks different with Russell at the helm, whether you want to admit it or not. Okay,
They do.
They have been getting a lot more production out of their receivers. Mm-hmm. They've been moving the chains more. Mm-hmm. It has been more decisive since he played. Now, granted, they played the Giants last. Okay, we gotta acknowledge it for what it is. All right.
Yeah, they played both New York teams, the Jets, then the Giants. Yeah.
Yes. And the Commanders just played the Giants, and you saw what they did. It was a close game, so that's why I still feel like it's gonna be 7 points or less. And I just can't pick against the Steelers defense right now. I really can't. I want to say that I just can't pick against the Commanders offense, especially after what I saw in person just a little over a week ago.
I can't pick against your offense. I can't.
But it was what I saw in the previous week's game against the Giants and what their defense did against a mediocre offense, and it was still a 5-point game. The Steelers' offense is way better than that Giants' offense. Okay?
Oh yeah. No question.
It's not as good as the Ravens' offense,
right?
But the Ravens' defense is not as good as their offense is. And on the other side, the Steelers' defense is much better than their offense. But their offense isn't bad though because they have weapons. They're just still figuring things out, getting their chemistry down with a quarterback and Russell Wilson. In the very little time he's played, it looks like he has turned back the clock. At least after the first quarter of that first game that he played, he was looking rusty the first quarter, the first half.
Yeah,
ever since then, they have not turned the page, and they're not going to until he makes several mistakes. And he's not going to make the mistakes to the caliber that Justin Fields did. And they still found ways to win. If you are finding ways to win with the way Justin Fields was playing, and now looking at what Russell Wilson's doing, They have a solid offensive line. They got a solid running back. They got solid offensive weapons at wide receiver. They still need to make a little bit more of a splash at tight end, in my opinion. But, you know, the Steelers are a threat in the AFC. Are they Super Bowl contenders like the Ravens and the Chiefs or whatnot? No. But they are contenders to the playoffs. And for that, that's the reason why I'm going to get a little bit more animated on this pick rather than the others, because of my knowledge within the franchise of the Commanders. You have somebody who's watched this team more thoroughly than any of the other 31 teams around in the league. I have a show where I just talk about Commanders. And for somebody that has the tattoo on their arm of the previously named franchise's logo, you would think that it would be Cole making this pick for them to win and not me. It just goes to show how much of a homer I'm not and how much of a historian he is in the same way of me. And I want to pick the Commanders. I really do. I just can't. When I look at that defense, how impactful it is, and how the offensive line of the Commanders still is 1 to 2 pieces away from being a truly formed unit. Jaden Daniels is very good from escape and pressure, but we've also seen the pressure get a little bit to him at times, and that was against the Ravens. And the Ravens are very similar to the Steelers on defense, and they're not as good as the Steelers on defense, in my opinion. So if he's going to do that against the Ravens defense, and yet the other big mark that made them get one step ahead of them was the fact that the Ravens offense was really good with Lamar Jackson. And of course, King Henry was on fire that day running. But looking at that for what it is, it just makes more sense to me to choose the Steelers in a very similar light of the reasons why you brought up for the Commanders, why you're picking the Commanders. I love this, and I look forward to talking about it next Monday morning.
I do too. And I can't say your pick is wrong. It's just, I just feel as though I just feel Dangerous is due not to have a stinker, but I think he's due to not have as strong an effort as he's had the last 2 games. And it's not going to have to take much. And this is actually a compliment to your Commanders. It's not going to have to take much. Like, he doesn't have to be 5 turnovers, and that's the only way that the Commanders can win the game. I'm talking about maybe like a fumble and a pick. If they can, if the Commanders can force those, and I think they can, and Jaden plays the way he's played, because the dude, for a rookie, he amazes me. The fact that he plays mistake-free football in the pocket, their chances of winning at home, I think, are greater. Now, to bolster your point, and you mentioned it, the fact that to me that offense also has Najee Harris waking up and giving you 100 yards a game. The last 3 games he's given you, that definitely would be one of those. I'm not going to say why you feel that way, because if he can notch that 100-yard game again against the Commanders, I agree with you. Everything else flows, and it would be hard. It'd be hard for the Commanders to come back from that.
Not only on top of that, the big reason why they put Justin Fields on the bench and Russell Wilson in is the lack of the deep ball that he was able to get in there, and the lack of consistency in scoring, which Russell Wilson has a pretty good arm still and does a pretty good job humming that deep ball, which the Commanders are not good at defending right now. So if they establish the run with Harris like you're talking about, play action, and get those deep passes in for completions, Steelers are winning this game.
Agreed. I just think they're gonna force a mistake. Just one. They're gonna force a mistake to where they may succeed. I just don't think they'll succeed the way they have against the Giants and the Jets.
And I hope you're right. I really hope I'm wrong for a change and that you're right. I can admit it.
But it's gonna be a good game, though. Oh my God.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
All right. Let's get to the last 1 p.m. game. Duval or Jacksonville. They're 2-7. The Jaguars, they host the Vikings at 6-2. Fox will have this kick at 1 p.m. Do you see any reason to pick against the Vikings?
No, I'm picking the Vikings. I am picking the Vikings. This is going to be a double-digit win.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I'm glad to see that in the comments that the tribe is agreeing with you and not with me. I don't say that often, but I have to love what I'm seeing it for that. But when it comes to this Vikings team, they're going to start their steamrolling again. They're going to get their second consecutive win in this game. I have no reason to think otherwise.
Yeah, same. The Jags, they may be game, but the Vikings, I think defensively, they're going to shut down whatever the Jaguars throw at them, and it's not going to be pretty. Which that makes me happy, but it's not going to be pretty.
Hey! Who's giving them the business?
All right, to the late Sunday kicks. We'll start with the lone 405 kick. Foss will have this game. The Chargers at 5-3, and this is the ridiculous game I'm going to be seeing. They'll be hosting the Titans at 2-6. Who do you have in this one?
This one's tough in comparison to the last game that we had.
Mm-hmm.
The Chargers, improved to 5-3 and the way that they did, and thinking about the fact that the Titans are actually competitive with Mason Rudolph and Will Levis out. That's the reason why I say this is tough.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, though, I have more faith in, Jim Harbaugh and the Justin Herbert-led Chargers. I feel like they're going to improve to 6-3. The Tennessee Titans are going to get back into the race for the number 1 overall pick, and they will fall to 2-7.
Well, as a fan, I definitely don't disagree with that. As an analyst, you're on point. I think this game's going to be much do like a Lee Corso, closer than the experts think. Yeah, I think this is going to be, and the Titans always play the Chargers hard. They always play them tough, and they always have good close games. And I don't see this being any different. The way the Chargers play, which is a grind them out type of game, the Titans want to do the same thing. And yeah, I think the Chargers will win. I want to see a 27-10 game, but I don't think I'm going to see that, unfortunately. I think it's going to be much, much, much closer than that. But I do see the Chargers winning it. But come on, Chargers, please prove me wrong. Rock the Titans, please.
Hey! Who's giving them the business?
All right, the first of the 2 425 games. The Cowboys come home, but they are 3-5. They host their division rival Philadelphia Eagles at 6-2. Who takes this one?
Man, we're about to hear we them boys. They about to pick up a dub.
That was a lie.
Did y'all think I was really serious?
Not.
Ain't nobody calling me, texting me, paging me, asking me, are you still involved? Delete!
All right, you know what's coming next.
You guys want to hear a fucking story?
Cowboys ain't losing. They ain't winning this game. Eagles ain't losing this game. It's for my man Dante. For Dante, I'm clicking this button too.
This has been yet another Beating a Dead Horse presentation.
In case you've been sleeping under a rock.
Oh, Lord, not breaking news, too.
The Cowboys have absolutely sucked this season.
You like that?
What?
They've been terrible. They're going to be terrible again.
What?
I don't know if you've been watching or not, but yes, they've been terrible. And they're going to turn it around this week. We got
a pause.
Even Bishop is turning around in his grave.
Hell to the no, to the no, no. Hell no, to the no.
This is how your own fan base feels about you right now.
nobody care. Who cares? Ain't no.
That's what everyone's doing to you right now, Cowboys Nation, because you them boys, and you not only are them boys, but
We
you're going
them
to take
boys.
one big
America's team.
bag. I rest
You know we're going to
my
Super Bowl.
case.
You know we're going to Super Bowl, right? I can't believe those fools still saying that crap, even as bad as this team is. The Eagles should dog walk the Cowboys. And I say it for this reason. If the Lions can walk in there and beat them down like that, if the Saints can walk in there and beat them down like that, there is no reason for the Eagles to not walk in there and beat them down like that, because they know this team better than those two. Yeah. Now, is it going to be 47-9? I don't think so, but still, the Eagles should just simply dog walk the Cowboys. The Cowboys are just horrible. Horrible. But thank you, Gerald, for making the team horrible. But you ain't going to own up to that, though.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
All right, the other 425 kicks. CBS also has this game as well. The Jets at 3-6. They're making New York happy and giving them hope. We might see playoff ball with this team. They go to the desert to play the NFC West leading Cardinals at 5-4. All right, your thoughts on who you see winning it?
If the script is correct, if there is such a thing, the Jets will get the upset victory this week, and we'll be talking about it as an upset this upcoming week as well. However, I just don't think it's going to happen. I think with the Cardinals, the way they've been turning things around, they're going to keep proving that they are a team that you can't sleep on, and they're going to beat the Jets. The Jets are going to fall to 3-7. The Cardinals will improve to 500, and they will take this thing and run with it, at least for this game.
Yeah. I don't know why I'm getting this feeling, and I'm really rooting for the Cardinals, because that's just how much I dislike Aaron Rodgers. But I just get the feeling that they're going to be disappointing. So I'm picking the Jets, and I really don't want to. But I just get the feeling that they had this wonderful game yesterday where they routed the team by 20, and then they're going to have like they screwed the pooch at home against your Commanders. They're going to have this game where they just simply can't do anything on all phases, all three phases. It's all going to go, and the Jets will win it. I hate saying it, and I wish I could put it. That was a lie. I wish I could put we could pause that. I wish I could. I'm just not that sold on the Cardinals. It's more I'm not that sold on the Cardinals more than I am. I really do like the Jets. Because I really don't. Well, defensively, I do. Offensively, I'm like, they got a long way to go. But yeah, I think the Jets. And I really, it's paining. I hate saying it. Seriously, I hate saying it. And I really wish I could. I really wish I could go with the Charlie Murphy laugh and the Bishop singing H to the Null. I really feel like this.
You guys want to hear a fucking story?
Kyler Murray plays too much Call of Duty. And unfortunately, I think he's going to have one of those games where you would think he played too much Call of Duty. He didn't study the playbook this week. I hate saying this. Gosh, I hate it. That should tell you how much I am not a homer of my picks, because I really am wanting the Cardinals to beat down the Jets bad. But I don't have that much faith in the Cardinals.
Another disagreement, but I'm not mad at it.
I'm wanting your pick to happen personally. I'm begging for it. Oh my god!
Who's giving them the business?
And the other big game of the week, Sunday night, we are in H-Town. The Houston Texans at 6-3. They host the NFC North and NFC leading Detroit Lions. They are 7-1. All right, your thoughts on this game and who do you have?
I can't pick against the Lions right now. At least, no offense, the Texans are not a team that I can at least sit here and say have a chance to beat the Lions.
Right.
And I know you're not one to pick for as a homer pick either. If you
Right.
were going to pick the Texans, it would have to be because they were playing with the team of last year,
Mhm.
and they're obviously not. They're missing some weapons, especially with Stephon Diggs being out for the remainder of the year. The only way that they will win this game is if they make a true splash with less than 24 hours left in the trade deadline. By the time you're listening to this on WQEE 99.1 FM, this will be Tuesday and the trade deadline will come and go. But as of right now, in this second, you still have the rest of this day to make a move. But with what are you going to send in return? Because the only other thing that I can see would be a huge trade if they can pull it off. If they can get Brandon Scherff from the Jaguars to get a little bit more protection on that offensive line, because CJ has been dancing this year. That is the only one true move. Because if you brought in a wide receiver, that'd be cool, but you need a little bit more protection for the receiver, because the reason why some of these injuries are happening is because CJ is hurrying the ball a little bit too much into a spot where the receiver's not quite ready and setting them up for big hits. And it's only because they don't have enough protection, and it's all within the center of that line. They're breaking down at the center position.
Yes, sir.
And what Brandon Scherff is he was a center for the Washington Commanders before they became the Commanders back when they were the Redskins. And he was one of the bright spots of the team and has been one of the bright spots of the Jaguars. But unfortunately, you need 5 people on an offensive line, and the other 3 to 4 around him are absolutely terrible right now. So the one position that you can secure some help on that offensive line is if you go for Brandon Scherff today. Unfortunately, by the time you're listening to this on the radio, it won't really matter because the moves will be finally set and done. But unless they can make 2 moves today, one for that spot and another for a decent wide receiver to fill in the hole, or at least try to fill the shoes of Stephon Diggs, there's no way you're going to win this game. And even if you do bring those pieces in, there's no way they're going to be ready by the time that game is played Sunday night. So with that being said, I'm going to have to go with the Jaguars losing this. I'm not the Jaguars. The Texans losing this game. I want to pick them, but I just can't. And I'm going to have to go with the Lions winning decisively. It will be at least a double-digit victory for the Lions in Houston.
And when I saw it on the schedule, I actually was looking forward to it. And when the season was starting, I was looking forward to it because I was thinking this was going to be similar records that we're seeing. Because I figured these 2 teams were going to be on top of their divisions, and I figured it was going to be a good measuring stick for both. But I did figure, though, that the Lions would be ahead of the Texans, which they are because, they played in last year's NFC Championship game. The Texans didn't make it as far. They made it to the divisional round. So I figured that this would be one of those measure stick games for both. It's a road game for the Lions to prove that they can actually win on the road, which they proved they proved it yesterday. But I think they can prove it again, and I don't have no issue with them doing that because I think they are. They're just that good and they're just that talented. And again, I love watching them play. Even if it's against my Texans, I love watching them play. They're going to be physical. They're going to dominate. I think they're going to push that defensive line just a little bit too much, in my opinion. Talking about the Lions offensive line versus the defensive line for the Texans. I think you can have them in the secondary as well. The Texans' hope is that it's a grind them out game. They got to force mistakes out of Jared Goff. It is that simple. You got to force mistakes out of them, and then you got to capitalize on those mistakes. And yes, the Texans are missing Nico Collins. They're definitely missing Stephon Diggs, and they had an interior offensive lineman go down for the year. So, and that was against the Colts last Sunday. So, yeah, I agree with you. Interior linemen, they need something there. And Laramie Tunsil, stop making mistakes. You're too experienced to act like you are a rookie on the line. You keep giving these false starts and killing drives with your penalties. It's frustrating to see this because you know better. And yeah, unfortunately, I hate to say it, even with those additions, I still see CJ Stroud dancing just a little bit too much for my liking, forcing him into mistakes that he normally wouldn't make. And to show that I'm not a homer, the Texans are going to go down at home, and I don't want that to happen, but they are. They are not ready for prime time, and the Lions are going to prove it to them. And that's just the truth. They are. The Lions are just too good for the Texans. It's not happening. It's just not happening. All right, that concludes this.
Oh, yeah. It's that time.
That's right. But before we wrap this show up, it is time for Snowflake of the Week. And Drew, what is your choice, sir?
So I have to look at one person that single-handedly cost his team this past week the win, and especially the fact that it was led to overtime because he wanted to throw not one, not two, but 3 interceptions. I guess Spencer Rattler coughed on some more juice boxes and FedExed them to him the night before, and he got that juice box COVID. I don't know what it is, but Geno threw 3 picks in this game and cost him a division win over the Rams. Yes, he did throw for 363 yards and 3 touchdowns, but he channeled his inner Jameis Winston with having as many interceptions as he did touchdowns. My choice for Snowflake of the Week because he cost the team the game, and he played like Jameis. I'm going with Geno Smith.
Geno Smith, that's a good choice. That's a real good choice. Mine's going to be simple and sweet. 8 sacks, Texans offensive line. Really? 8 sacks? 8 sacks and then a whole other type of hits. Okay. All right. You want to know why the Texans are not going to go anywhere? And people were saying you were AFC championship contenders, but I was like, you got to be kidding me. You all. That's right. The 5 up front that's supposed to protect the most prized possession on the team. You were the reason why I did not think you were going to go that far, because I figured that you were going to be too inexperienced and now too unskilled to make it that far. And it's embarrassing how you are not protecting this man. You should do much better. I could throw it on CJ Stroud's lap, but I can't do it because I would be wishing that I would have somebody else blocking for me than the 5 of you up front. Come on now. 8 sacks. You allow 8. You're an NFL offensive line. You allow 8 sacks. Yes, I get the Jets are a decent team and they're stout up front. Quentin Williams, I've said, best player on the Jets, period. 8 sacks though? Come on, man. You gotta do better than that.
As long as it's one. I went to go find one yesterday, but I wasn't able to look at the on right now. That's great. So I love it. Actually, I was getting to I hope it actually is recording. Listening to it.
And we've come to the part of the program where we get to shut this all down and give our final thoughts. Here's the post game. And Drew, what are yours? Oh, for some reason. There you go.
There it was. I actually tapped it when I was listening to your take. As I was saying, another great Monday episode with my man Coach Johnson. As we changed things up for this episode, and it flowed very, very well. Looking forward to episode 63 next week after we see the conclusion of these games this week. Have a great contest on Thursday. Some great contests throughout this Sunday afternoon, especially might be a homer pick, but I am looking forward to the Commanders hosting the Steelers. It will be a true test, just like the Ravens game, as to if this team is for real or not. There's other people out there like Cole and many other people who are telling me a lot more positive things about the Commanders than I am saying. I don't think that I'm not thinking it. Don't think that I'm being a hater. I'm just being very, very cautious because I've been through certain flashes in the pan with the Commanders over the past 30 years, since I was a little kid since the days that Joe Gibbs' tenure for the head coaching spot was over. This is the first time since 1996 that they have started out this great with a 7-2 record. 96, they didn't do anything huge with that year either. So that's why I'm still not fully drinking the Kool-Aid yet. But after 8, now 9 weeks, a little bit over a half of a season of football, I can say for that team, I am excited for what the future holds. I'm just not jumping fully in quite yet. However, you got to at least admit, here in 2024, I've jumped in even more than last year because I actually have Commanders hoodies. Shout out to my fan that sent this to me last week. 2 more hoodies, actually, and a jersey. And I got 2 shirts coming in. One that I didn't even get to show Cole yet. It's a wrestling T-shirt that says the People's Elbow, but it has Jaden Daniels having his arm up like this, and he's throwing the football. So that should be in the next week. And then if you know what the Jack Daniels liquor bottle looks like, the label, instead of Jack Daniels, it says Jaden Daniels, number 5. And then it has all these handwritten stat stuff in it too. So I got those. Shout out to Barstool Sports. But wanted to make my post-game take on the Commanders today. It is very exciting to see what I have seen. 3 straight wins, absolutely huge. Coming off of the game that I witnessed last week and was able to talk to you about a little bit on Monday. It's been a great week of football. I've watched 2 weekends of football without having to go back to work, but that streak ends today. As it's time for me to get ready to rock and roll with work. But another great Monday with my man, Cole Johnson. Shout out to Xfinity for delaying us to get started this morning, but you didn't cost us as we were still able to make it happen. Looking forward to next Monday, but most importantly, looking forward to football this week so I can get back to talking about it with my man, Cole, next week.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate that. And great takes. And yeah, I'm just happy about your Commanders, man. I'm happy that you managed your expectations and look at that. All you probably need is maybe 2-3 more wins and you actually earn a playoff spot. And you still have a shot for a divisional title.
Thank you. And you're in the same spot as I was last year where I was happy for your team. The good news, at least as of right now, is your team is still in positive graces.
Yeah.
They're not as good as they were last year, and part of it to injuries. And, they need more personnel. But at the same time, you've got that same feeling that I had last year where your team is going through a tough time, even though they got a positive record. But you're happy to see that your co-host, your friend, your brother's team on the other end is doing it and making noise and in a positive setting. I know exactly how you feel because I was there last year.
And I feel good for you, man. I really do. Yeah. So here we are, another week, and yeah, it's been great to actually do this with Drew. Awesome brother that he is. Another week, another concussion, and this time another person having a concussion, more than one of them in a season. This time is Chris Olave, wide receiver of the New Orleans Saints. And last week, I said that I really believe that you all are paying lip service, and it's going to take something tragic for you all to really be serious. Shield that player safety is paramount. The thing is, I I believe that you all are paying lip service to the point where it's painful. It's painful to witness. It's painful to watch. It's painful to just diagnose how you all are like, well, we could just brush that off and brush it aside. You want these players to be put on the field, and you're not caring if this is safe. Now, yeah, I know you've done guardian caps and you have percussion protocol, but you all know that if a player suffers a concussion, they are twice as likely to have one the second time around. So when you have a player that suffers 2 concussions within a year, and I can say within a calendar year is bad enough, but within a season it's even worse. Do something about it. I don't think you're doing enough. And it's now to the point where Chris Olave is going to have to think the same thing and ask the same questions, and his family too, as the Tua Tagovailoa's family is going to have to. And if that's the case, I feel for them. I feel for his teammates, and I feel for him. But the band has to play on, right? Yeah.
As long as it's one. It's great. I love it. I hope it actually is recording. Listening to it.
Oh yeah.
Well, do you have anything for the Total Football Talk audience before we let them go, sir?
Just want to say sorry for the backdrop. I'm packing things up, getting ready to rock and roll for work. But just want to say thank you as always for tuning in, everybody, and we will catch you next week.
Yeah, definitely will. Definitely will. Now, if you want to catch Drew, all you have to do is go onto these platforms. Sartoba_media on Instagram, Sartoba_media with X, at the _Sartoba on TikTok, and Sartoba Media on YouTube. And if you want to reach moi, what you have to do is go on to flowcode.com/page/host Cole Johnson. That is flowcode.com/page/host Cole Johnson. For those in the audience, those in the chat, the TFT tribe, Sartoba Media, Comey Media Incorporated, and for Drew William, I'm Cole Johnson. Here to say thank you for liking, thank you for sharing, thank you for subscribing, and thank you for hitting the notification bell so you can catch everything that comes from the Sartoba Media or the Comey Media Incorporated YouTube channel. For Drew Willingham, I'm Cole Johnson, here to say, imparting as I always do, in life, just like a tackle, gotta keep your head up. And always remember, you gotta play until the whistle blows. And as my partner would say, and as always, stay safe out there on these streets.